Hello, everybody, and thanks for having me on, Shane.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got started in the end time prophecy.
Well, I'm a Christian. I'm just someone who sits in the pews. I'm not a pastor, and I've just been a Bible student most of my life. And finally, world events caught up with Bible prophecy, and there's a lot of things happening right now that the Bible talks about. So that's why we're here tonight.
Yeah, now you did have something up on the website about the latest news on Facebook. What was going on there?
Oh, yeah, I just posted something. This has happened several times before already, but Israel has been bombing warehouse sites around Damascus, presumably their weapons storage facilities for Iran. I'm sure you know that Iran is supporting the Assad regime in Syria. And there's been another round of, at least this has been reported, Syria has said that Israel has bombed several sites around Damascus. And that's, maybe an hour ago, the report came in.
Yeah, now, tonight we're going to, you're going to be sharing something about your latest book of what's going on with Syria and some of the other areas.
Okay.
Where do you want to start tonight?
Well, I guess maybe just a general statement. I said before that world events are catching up with Bible prophecy, and that's especially true in Syria. There's a lot of things going on in Syria right now. The Turkish Army is in Syria already, in the Idlib province. That's in the northwestern part of Syria. And they're also on the Turkish border on the northeast part of Syria, they're saying that they're going to attack the Kurds there. And the U.S. has just announced, Donald Trump just announced a week or so ago that he was going to pull out the U.S. troops that are actually supporting the Kurds now. The U.S. is helping the Kurds fight ISIS, and they're also protecting the Kurds from Turkish invasion. And the Turkish President Erdogan said, like yesterday, that if the U.S. leaves or not, Turkey's going to attack the Kurds in northeast Syria. So there's a lot of things going on. There's more than that, but Turkey's playing a big role in all of this.
Yeah. So now we're right at the cutting edge of the soon return of Jesus Christ. If things begin to escalate here in Syria and Turkey begins to really get aggressive and take over and put Syria under his regime, what's the next step once that starts happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think Turkey's already serious. There's maybe 400,000 Turkish troops on the Syrian border. And I'm not sure if that number includes the number that is already inside of Syria. Most of the Turkish soldiers that are in Syria are in the Idlib province and the northwestern part of Syria. And I don't know if people are up on this, but Turkey has already conquered a lot of territory in northwestern Syria. They've actually opened Turkish schools. The Turkish representatives have taken over the government, or at least co-governing northwestern Syria. They've built roads. They have electricity wired into Syria from Turkey. They've taken over, a significant portion of northwest Syria, and the Turkish army is in the Idlib province. You might have to get a map out, but that's in the northwest part of Syria, and the Idlib province is nestled right between Hama and Aleppo. It wired into Syria from Turkey, so that you might have heard of Hama and Aleppo. But in the Bible, in Jeremiah chapter 49, verses 23 through 27, it talks about the destruction of Damascus. And it starts off talking about Hama and Arpad in Jeremiah chapter 49, verses 23. And Hama and Arpad today is called Tel Rafat. Arpad is just north of Aleppo, and Hama is on the western side of the Idlib province. These are both of the areas that the Turkish army is targeting, and they have a lot of troops amassed, right against both of those locations. So the Christians should be very much alert, and so should Israel, that Jeremiah is ready to happen. Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 23. Hama and Tel Rafat. These are the two towns that that the Bible says will hear evil tidings, and then the residents of Damascus will flee, and Damascus will be destroyed. And the Turkish army is against both of those cities right now. And along with the Turkish army is Al-Qaeda. There are several Al-Qaeda factions in the Idlib province, and they're all supported by Turkey. And as a matter of fact, they're all united under Turkish leadership. They call it the National Army or the Syrian National Army. That's been formed for maybe a year now. So all those Al-Qaeda factions inside Idlib are under Turkish authority militarily. Now they're all independent too. I mean, they're fighting each other in Idlib, and they're very unpredictable. But they are under Turkish leadership, and right now, kind of the biggest thing that's going on. Turkey was supposed to go. Russia and Iran allowed Turkey to go into Idlib, and they were supposed to create a demilitarized zone between Hama and northern Aleppo. And they have done that to some degree, but some of the Al-Qaeda factions are not cooperating. And right now, you might have heard of Al-Nusra Front. That is the Syrian affiliate of Al-Qaeda in Syria. All these other Al-Qaeda groups are not Syrian, but Al-Nusra Front is to a degree. There are other rebels fighting with them. But right now, over the last month or so, the Syrian Al-Qaeda forces have been conquering more towns. They were confined to Idlib, but now they're going into Hama, and they're going into northern Aleppo near Tel Rafat. So they're causing, excuse me, a lot more trouble just in the last few weeks or months, and they're actually taking over towns. And more that is causing fears that the Syrian army and the Turkish army are going to intervene, and either the Turkish army will stop Al-Qaeda, which I doubt that they will because they're aligned with them, or more likely Syria will attack the Syrian army in Hama. And if the Syrian army tries to stop the Al-Qaeda factions that are getting north of Aleppo, that the Turkish army will attack the Syrian army and the Kurds in northern Aleppo, which is Tel Rafat or Arpad mentioned in Jeremiah chapter 49. So more and more, the events in Syria are coming to a knife's edge. The Bible tells us that those two towns, Hama and Tel Rafat, will hear evil tidings and be terrified. And then the residents of Damascus will flee, and Damascus will be destroyed. And since the Turkish army is amassed right across from both of those areas, it makes perfect sense that the Turkish army is going to do these things. And there are other biblical reasons too why I think Turkey is the culprit here. But things are really getting strange. Turkish President Erdogan is getting more agitated. Donald Trump's not sure what to do. He said he was going to remove the troops from Syria, and they're in northeastern Syria helping the Kurds. And then he said, well, I think we have to slow this down. The U.S. announced that they will continue to remove our troops from Syria. So things are getting pretty agitated, and I think that the Turkish attack on Hama and Tel Rafat is what to look for biblically, and that's going to be the catalyst for the destruction of Damascus.
Now, I noticed on your website, on the hightimetoawake.com, you had 3 things that were pertinent for this broadcast. One of them was the map of Idlib.
Yep. If you go to hightimetoawake.com, excuse me, you'll see a link at the very top of the website that says Battle for Idlib Syria map. And that shows where the Turkish forces and the Al-Qaeda forces are, where their positions are inside of Idlib. And they're right across from Hama and Tel Rafat. So, yeah, if you want to see a map, if you want to see, where these forces are, you can go to my website, hightimetoawake.com, and check out my map, the Battle for Idlib Syria map.
And then another thing you had was the 2019 timeline, and you had that on your website, and there's a link on there to see that. We did put a link down in the Facebook page this afternoon.
Right. Yeah, that's good to look at too. It has a little bit of a longer term projection as far as Bible events go. But I've been making these timelines since maybe 2014 or 2013, and they're getting more accurate. I'll put it that way. These events are so near to us, and they're forming. So that's definitely something good to look at. Would you like to talk about a longer term projection, Shane?
Yeah, go ahead and share that, would you?
Okay. Yep. The attack on northwestern Syria, that's Hama and Tel Rafat. Remember those 2 towns. That's when you start hearing about the Turkish army attacking Hama and Tel Rafat, which the Turkish President Erdogan has vowed to definitely to take over Tel Rafat. That's the last stronghold of the Kurds in northwestern Syria. He already pushed the Kurdish militia out of northwestern Syria, except for Tel Rafat. That's kind of the key town. And when you start hearing about Hama and Tel Rafat, you're hearing about the Turkish army attacking them, then expect the residents of Damascus to flee. And then I think the Turkish army and Al-Qaeda to march southward to destroy Damascus. And I think these events are so close. Things are really getting strange. I mean, I used to be able to look at things, in a distant projection or a year projection, but now we're right at the line. So you definitely want to keep your ears open and your eyes open. But the destruction of Damascus is not the end of the scenario. After Turkey and Al-Qaeda destroy Damascus, then I think that Turkey is going to lead the forces that are fighting in Syria into northern Israel, into the Golan Heights. That's only 30 miles away from Damascus. And there are several reasons to think that. Most people are familiar with Isaiah chapter 17. It talks about the destruction of Damascus. And in Isaiah chapter 17, verses 12 and 14, after the destruction of Damascus, it talks about a multi-nation invasion into Israel. And in Isaiah, it describes them coming as a turbulent sea, as a roaring sea, as a sea that can't be quiet. Then actually in Jeremiah, it uses that same terminology. But a sea of nations coming into Israel, and then God personally intervening and stopping them. So the destruction of Damascus is tied to a multinational invasion into Israel in Isaiah. And that's not the only place. this multinational invasion into Israel by Turkey with the forces that are fighting in Syria is described in Ezekiel chapter 38. People call it the Battle of Gog and Magog. Gog is the chief prince amongst the provinces of Turkey. He's the primary governor of Turkey, and that's Turkish President Erdogan. And
so you're saying tonight, Craig, that the President Erdogan out of Turkey is the dictator, and you believe he is the Antichrist?
Absolutely. Yes, he is. He's the Antichrist. In Ezekiel chapter 38 and in Ezekiel chapter 39, it talks about the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. That Meshech, Tubal, Magog were all brothers. They're real people. They're in the genealogies in the Bible. And the chief prince or primary governor amongst the provinces of Turkey is going to lead two separate invasions, according to Ezekiel chapter 38 and Ezekiel chapter 39, into Israel. And in Ezekiel chapter 39, it's the same battle as the Battle of Gog and Magog. So Magog leads the Battle of Armageddon. Did I say Armageddon? I'm not sure. But Ezekiel chapter 39 is the same as the Battle of Armageddon. So the primary governor of Turkey leads the Battle of Armageddon. So if the Antichrist leads the Battle of Armageddon, then the primary governor of Turkey is the Antichrist. And there are other reasons to think that Erdogan is the Antichrist. And I have many articles about that. You can find that on my website. I have an article called Erdogan is the Antichrist, and it has links to several other articles. In the Bible, there are two ancient battles, invasions into Israel by the Assyrian kings. And those two battles are models for Ezekiel chapter 38 and Ezekiel chapter 39, the Turkish-led invasions into Israel. So the Bible compares the Antichrist to the Assyrians, to the ancient Assyrian kings, because he will do the same things that the ancient Assyrian kings did. He will invade Israel twice. And in the ancient Assyrian battles, in the first battle, invasion into Israel, before the Assyrians invaded Israel, they conquered Syria. And they started in northern Aleppo, just like Turkey is doing, and then came down into Damascus and conquered Damascus, and then they invaded northern Israel. Turkey is going to do the same thing. Turkey is the modern day Assyrian.
So we are really getting close to the end times. I mean, we're in the end times.
Yeah, we at least have one toe in the end times. I mean, the very end times.
So we're on the cutting edge, the front row seat of the soon return of Jesus Christ.
Yes, I said that God intervenes personally when Turkey leads the forces that are fighting in Syria now into the Golan Heights, into northern Israel. He intervenes personally because I think that Nahum chapter 1 tells us how and who. I think that Jesus Christ personally will come in a whirlwind of fire. That's in Nahum chapter 1 to the Golan Heights and fight against these armies and cause them to retreat. In several places it says God will cause them to retreat, and not in a good way. They're going to be running for their lives. And so, yeah, I think that Jesus Christ will fight on the Golan Heights. That's my new book. Jesus Christ is going to come back to the Golan Heights to repel the Turkish-led invasion after Turkey destroyed Damascus. And at that same time, he will collect his saints. He'll collect his church. The resurrection and rapture will happen soon after or around the time that Turkey leads Iran, Libya, Sudan. Those are all mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 38. And those are the forces that are fighting in Syria now. The Free Syrian Army is fighting with the Turkish Army. They have been for many years now. And the Free Syrian Army is not Syrian at all. Those aren't Syrian soldiers. The Free Syrian Army was created in Libya. It's mostly Libyan. And Libya is in northern Africa, and so is Sudan. So when this is like 6 years ago, maybe, all the rebels were flooding into Syria through Turkey. Those are all or mostly North African soldiers from Libya and Sudan. So all these nations are already there. And Iran is there. They've been there for a long time. And Hezbollah from Iran and supported by Libya and from Libya is there. All these nations are already there that Ezekiel chapter 38 talks about. A lot of people mention Russia. They think Russia is part of Ezekiel chapter 38, but I don't think it is at all. I'm not going to really get into that, but just a heads up. It's Turkey. Turkey leads the Ezekiel chapter 38 and Ezekiel chapter 39 battles of Gog and Magog. In this case, it looks like, because all the nations that are mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 5, are fighting in Syria now. So it looks like after the destruction of Damascus, all these armies will be there in Damascus, which is southern Syria, and 30 miles away, they're going to say, let's go into Israel. And that's going to be a lot of soldiers. I don't even know how many, maybe 1 million or so, a lot.
Wow, that's really something. This news is astounding because you're backing it up with scripture. You've written up to 17 books, and you are an expert in Bible prophecy. What about all these other Bible prophecy teachers that are thinking Gog and Magog is Russia?
Well, I mean, I know how they get to that conclusion. When I was talking about the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, chief is the word Rosh. That's a Hebrew word. It just means first or primary. And they say, well, that sounds like Russia, so maybe it's Russia. But you know what? There's no other place in the Bible that you make that jump. You don't find an English word or a Hebrew word and then see what else sounds like it. God's very specific, telling you, what the words he uses are they mean something, and they mean what they typically mean. So Rosh is not Russia. It's the primary governor amongst the provinces of Turkey. Meshech and Tubal. Meshech, Tubal, Magog, all those were brothers. They were sons of Japheth, who was a son of Noah, and they're the first people who settled in what we call Turkey today. And I forgot what I was going to say, Shade. Sorry about that. I think you're going to have to get my book.
Yeah, and you had scriptures that went back into the history that shows, that those were the people from the province of Turkey. The chief prince of Turkey would be the person that has gone in to try to invade Israel before. And the scriptures are showing from those regions. And you said they were, what was the main regions?
You mean in Ezekiel chapter 38?
38. Okay, yeah.
Oh, well, that's an interesting thing about the battles of Gog and Magog. There's actually 3 of them mentioned in the scriptures. Ezekiel chapter 38 describes one. Ezekiel chapter 39 describes a different one. And in Revelation chapter 20, it just mentions Gog and Magog. And that's the final battle when all the nations come against Israel after the 1,000-year reign of Christ. The interesting thing about the battle of Gog and Magog is that they're all Turkish-led, and they include nations from every region of the old world. So that would generally be southeastern Europe, northern Africa, southwest Russia, and then the Middle East, or Iran, Iraq, Central Asia or Western Asia. So those are all different regions. And during the battles of Gog and Magog, nations from all of these different regions will join Turkey to attack Israel. When Israel has been attacked in the last 100 years or so, or maybe I should say 70, it's typically been the nations right around Israel. But in Gog and Magog, it's going to be it's not going to be a regional invasion. It's going to be multi-regional invasion. It's going to be Iran and from Central Asia. It's going to be Russia, which is right in the middle of all these places. I mean, not Russia, Turkey, which is right in the middle of all these places. And Libya, Sudan from Northern Africa. Those are all different regions. And so the battles of Gog and Magog represent the ultimate rebellion of the nations led by Turkey, which is right in the center of all those regions against Israel.
Greg, we're living in such exciting times and dangerous times. Like, look at the reports on the news. If we were to put in a Google search on the news and put in Turkey and Syria, we're right there where things can begin to escalate like never before. So it's just a matter of time. When we see Damascus destroyed, we know it's going to be on the worldwide news.
Oh, yeah, I think that you're not going to be able to miss that. But even before Damascus is destroyed, Jeremiah tells us, a few other events that are going to happen, and that's the invasion or at least terrorizing of Hama and Tel Rafat. That's Turkey really just moving just a mile away or two from their positions in Idlib. They're right there. We're ready for that to happen. So those things will happen. And then before Damascus is destroyed, Jeremiah says that the residents of Damascus will flee. And Amos actually tells us where they're going. They're going to go down into Jordan, into Kir or Kirak, which is in Jordan, was kind of near the Dead Sea. And there's a large refugee camp there now for Syrian refugees. So the Syrians are going to flee from Damascus into Jordan, and there are already 1 million or so, or 10 million, I should say, refugees already. I mean, people have been displaced from Syria. So
it's amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, the residents of Damascus will flee. So you're not going to have to wait for the destruction of Damascus to be able to know what's going on.
It's really amazing the times that we are in, and it's amazing to me, Craig, that the church is not ready.
No, I don't think it is at all.
The church is not understanding, or even, you should be having doors open to minister these truths straight from the Bible, and have that your whole website, that High Time to Awake, should be out in the forefront. I mean, people need to get ready.
Yeah.
What can we do to get ready right now, Craig? What's your suggestion?
Well, you can go to my website, hightimetoawake.com, and start reading. I have a link on the very top of my website that says Turkey will destroy Damascus. That's a good place to start. Just know what's going on. Realize that we're so close to Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Yeah, and knowing that we should have our loved ones saved, we should get out in the streets and shout it from the rooftops, because Bible prophecy was written before we were born for such a time as this, to wake us up and to let us know that if we're skeptical about God, this is a sure wake up and an alarm being shouted from the rooftops, that it's these current events in the news. We can't make that stuff up. That Bible, that current Bible prophecy is coming to pass as we're sitting here in the front row.
It sure is. And I've been writing about these things for 7.5, 8 years on my website. And saying that Turkey is going to, attack Hama and Tel Rafat, and I was told I was crazy and it could never happen. And now they're right there next to them. The Turkish army is right next to Hama and Tel Rafat. So, and there's, there are a lot of other distractions in Syria as far as the Turkish army goes. And the bottom line, I think that Turkey will conquer Syria. It might not become Turkey, but it'll be under leadership that Turkey controls, typically Muslim Brotherhood leadership. Erdogan said probably 6 years ago that he wanted to put Muslim Brotherhood leadership into Damascus, into Syria, and oust Assad. He has said openly that the only reason that the Turkish army ever entered Syria was to remove Assad from power in Damascus. So this shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, the writing's been on the wall for many, many years, 7 years or so. And, Christians just aren't that aware of it. But anyway, I've been looking at these things coming for 7 years or so. And now we're so close that I don't really see anything that has to happen. And things are getting a little stranger with Turkey being in northeastern Syria, or, they're above that on the border, promising to attack the Kurds. And, we'll see what happens there. But, Turkey, I think, will conquer Syria. And that's just the beginning of the reconstitution of the Ottoman Empire under Turkish President Erdogan. And most Muslim nations are behind Erdogan as far as allowing him to do this, and recognizing Turkish President Erdogan as the leader or the sultan of all of Islam. So Erdogan wants to reconstitute the Ottoman Empire, and that's something that is talked about in Revelation. It's the head of the beast. The beast is a world empire. The head of the beast will be healed. The Ottoman Empire failed about 100 years ago. It's going to be reborn under Turkish President Erdogan, and he's going to be the ruler of the Islamic world.
So he's going to be a type of a sultan, where everyone is going to come and fly the black flags under the banner of this leader that is rising up.
They're already doing it.
So
Turkish flags are flying in almost every Islamic nation now. They are embracing Erdogan by and large. I mean, there are holdouts. Some in Egypt are resisting it. Some in Egypt are embracing Erdogan. So it's not something far off. It's already begun, and it's also not the reconstitution of the Ottoman Empire is not something that Christians should wait around to see if it happens. I think that's something that's going to develop more into the tribulation period, and I think the tribulation will start after the destruction of Damascus and after Jesus returns to turn back the nations that Turkey has led into northern Israel.
And also, Craig, you were saying in your book that when they come down and try to invade Israel, that Jesus Christ will fight on the Golan Heights in your latest book. And he'll come down like a whirlwind of fire and wrath and really put a hurting on them. And then you believe that very moment, somewhere in that moment, could be the rapture.
Yeah, I think so, because in Nahum, in the midst of all the whirlwind and the judgment that's going on across the Golan Heights, it says that God knows, who those that love Him. He protects them. So He's coming in wrath, but He knows who are His. So He's going to protect Christians, believers.
This is so amazing to me that God is lining things up, and very few people even are aware of it, and very few people are even interested in it. It's amazing to me that people don't want to know about end times. Maybe they are in denial. Maybe they just don't want to face it. Maybe they want to live here longer on earth and get their things, in order, and they want to have their retirement. But what can you say to the people tonight that they need to really get ready for eternity?
Get ready for eternity. Yeah, I think Jesus Christ is coming, and there's going to be, some who go with him and some who don't. And when Jesus Christ comes, there's a reason for that. It's because there's a terrible time coming on the earth. It's called the tribulation period. And there's all sorts of horrible things that happen. There's wars and famines and earthquakes and tidal waves and all sorts of strange things that, I'm not even sure what they are. They're judgments from God. And God is going to take Christians away for 7 years to escape this terrible time. And the worst time is going to be in Jerusalem. So Jerusalem is going to be overrun by the Islamic world, and they're going to suffer horribly. And some will escape into the wilderness or into Jordan for 3.5 years, but some won't, and they'll suffer horribly. So, all these Old Testament prophets, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, these are prophecies for Israel. They're for the church too, because it's God's word, and we're paying attention because God came through Israel. But Israel should be paying attention more than anybody, but every person should be paying attention. And turn your heart to God, and believe in Jesus Christ, that he died, that he's the Son of God, that he rose again, and that he paid the penalty for your sins. You're not going to have your whole lifetime to avoid the tribulation period. You have, I don't know how long, maybe a year or so, I don't know. But these events are wrapping up or ramping up, the end time events, and I don't think it's not going to go on forever. It's just going to be a couple of years or a year or months, I don't know. But yeah, don't procrastinate. Don't think that you have all the time in the world, because you don't. Now, even when after Jesus Christ comes, maybe you can. I mean, Christian, there'll be people saved during the tribulation, but you don't want to go through the tribulation. You don't want to go through famines and earthquakes and wars and horrible things, disease, all sorts of horrible things are going to happen. So it's something to be escaped, and God tells you that in the New Testament. Pray that you're found worthy to escape these things that are coming upon the earth. So
yeah,
now's the time. You don't have forever. You don't have your lifetime, however old you are. You don't have forever to escape the tribulation. It's coming soon. So it's time to be very serious about your relationship with God.
that is so true and so right on. Now, if a pastor wanted to get a hold of you, or someone had a place for you to come and do a live meeting or a 2-day prophecy conference, what's the best way to reach you? Would it be on your website?
Yes. Just go to my website. I have a contact page. You can send me an email through there. It's easy.
Yeah, so they'll contact you through the website. Now, in your guesstimation of all 17 books you wrote, this latest one, I'm going to get the latest book, because this is a very powerful, cutting edge book on how Jesus is going to fight for his people. And what about the Jewish people? You have a book for the Jewish people about flee Judea?
Yep, it's called Judea, Flee, Jerusalem, Wait. And that's about the tribulation period of Jerusalem and Judea. It's was written specifically for Jews, especially those living in Israel.
Judea, flee, Jerusalem, wait.
Yep.
Now that's powerful, because if you want to witness to your Jewish friends and let them know what's coming, this would be a great book to give as a gift and invest it. And let me say this, all of Craig's books are very reasonable. They're very, very reasonable, and it's worth the investment to begin to understand that here's a man of God that has been studying this for so many years. How many years you've been into this background and researching biblical prophecy, end times, and how did you get started in this?
I've been a Christian since I was a very young boy, but I was fortunate to be part of David Hawking's church in Southern California. And he's a great Bible teacher, and I learned a lot from him. And I've been a Bible student, all of the Bible, not just prophecy. But when I started seeing these events happening in Syria, and when I realized that all the nations that Ezekiel chapter 38 mentions are fighting in Syria, and that was at the beginning of the Syrian war over 7 years ago, I said, wait a minute. These things are starting to happen. So since then, I had my website, and I've been concentrating on Bible prophecy. I have devotional articles and things on my website too, but most of it is Bible prophecy. So I'm a Christian who recognizes the times that we live in, and very specifically, point out what the Bible has to say. And there's much more to talk about. You can the best thing to do is to go to my website, hightimetoawake.com, read my books. They're all good. And the latest book is called Jesus Will Fight on the Golan Heights, and there's some great stuff in there. Most of it's very current within the last year. A lot of news events that I talk about, and mostly tied, directly to Scripture, and just Bible studies too. It's an easy to read book. All of my books are. They're none of them are very long, maybe 130 pages, something like that, and they're easy to read. They're written directly and clearly, and I think you will get something out of each and every one of them. But the latest one, Jesus Will Fight on the Golan Heights, is very up to date and exciting. They're all exciting. But
every one of your books is such a blessing. I'll tell you, we need to really get involved with end time Bible prophecy. As Gregish came on tonight, we're coming on here for a very divine appointment. I truly believe God is waking you up to get you to have a more intimate relationship with Jesus Christ, and not only prepare yourself, but to be a witness and a testimony. In the book of Revelations 12:11, it says that we overcame Satan by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of our testimony, and we did not love our lives even unto death. When Craig came on here tonight, I was so excited, but I want this to be forwarded and shared. I want you to get this video. I want you to share it with your unsaved loved ones. And I know, people, they don't want to realize the reality of where we're living, but turn on the news tonight and check out Syria, check out Turkey, check out the province and the Ottoman Empire, which was cut off I believe in the 1920s or early 1900s, and see how they're trying to revive it, coming in to get into Jerusalem and invade. And I'll tell you, this book, Jesus Christ is going to fight at the Golan Heights. We need to get that book from Craig as soon as possible. And what a blessing. Anything else, Craig, you want to share tonight?
Go to hightimetoawake.com. That's the best place to go. Everything is clearly laid out there for you to find. My articles are there. My books are there. And all my books are on Amazon. They're paperback and Kindle edition. But I like to leave everybody with this, and we started with this. Keep a lookout. Keep your eyes open and your ears open for news about Hema and Tel Rafat. That's where Jeremiah chapter 49 verses 23 starts. That's where the Old Testament really gets into gear as far as prophecy goes, and it doesn't stop there. It goes and keeps going. So Hema in northwest Syria, Tel Rafat in northwest Syria. That it would basically be the Turkish army is fighting against the Syrian army and even the Kurds in Tel Rafat. So, you know, there may be some other events that happen before that, but those are the events that the Bible tells us about that we can definitely identify that will start all of these other things.
Yeah, what a blessing. I want to thank you for coming on tonight. And I want everybody to go to hightimetoawake.com. And I just want to give God all the glory.